Okay, we have breaking news here as the Chicago Bears have a head coach and they have kind of won the Ben Johnson Sweepstakes is really what it kind of felt like, as it seemed like every team with an opening position interviewed Ben Johnson. It seemed like there were several places he wanted to go to, but ultimately he's going to decide to go with the one that just drafted a potential generational quarterback. At least that's how he was billed, in Caleb Williams, who did not have his best rookie year. And right off the bat, I mean, several ways you could take this. Ben Johnson did not have his best game in the most recent game. We're obviously losing in the divisional round when the Lions had much higher hopes than that. But as a whole, what Ben Johnson has done since taking over as offensive play caller for the Lions has been nothing short of spectacular. He's been the play caller for the past 3 seasons. In each of those 3 years, I mean, you look at Jared Goff. Prior to that, a lot of Lions fans were saying, like, I don't know about this Jared Goff guy. Like, that was legitimately the take when he first got there. But once Ben Johnson and Jared Goff got together, and they added more talent around, of course, that was a factor. That was in 2022. You just saw this Lions team take off. They nearly made the playoffs in 2022, beat the Packers to knock them out of the playoffs the last game of the season. Then the next year, of course, going all the way to the conference championship game, coming so close to winning that conference championship game. And then this year, the 15-2 record was very impressive. Ultimately, disappointing playoff loss. Johnson actually has a bit of an interesting career trajectory. He actually was on the Lions prior to Dan Campbell getting there. He was there in 2020 as the tight ends coach, but interestingly enough, in 2015, he was the tight ends coach for the Miami Dolphins when Dan Campbell was he was the interim coach for the Dolphins that year. So they kind of knew each other already. Campbell decided to keep Johnson around. Johnson became the passing game coordinator in 2021, and then, as I mentioned, 2022 is the offensive coordinator, starts calling plays, and did a pretty good job, I would say. Of course, Johnson's calling card is the trick plays. That's definitely what we talk about with Johnson, but he has so much more than that. I mean, the schemes that would constantly get put up, the play calling that he had, very similar to Kyle Shanahan. It just felt like when things were working, they were dominant. Now, he had a much better offensive line that he was dealing with in Detroit, and a veteran quarterback in Jared Goff as opposed to a rookie quarterback with Caleb Williams, not rookie, second-year quarterback now, but you get the idea. Johnson has a bit of a different assignment than what he had in Detroit. In Detroit, it very much was hey, you got these pieces, have fun with them. Here, it is very much about, can you get Caleb Williams to be good? That's what they're trying to do right here. It's more of a developmental role that Johnson is going to have. But at the same time, I mean, what's a great way to develop a quarterback is give him more open windows to throw to. And that's what Johnson's going to try and do here. I do wonder if they'll attack the offensive side of the ball a little bit more here, maybe put a focus on that. But again, who knows of head coaching hires? Sometimes guys who seem like they should be slam dunks don't work out. Sometimes guys who seem like they, have no business working out end up being great. If you remember last year, the report was that the Washington Commanders wanted Ben Johnson. He said no, so they decided to go with Dan Quinn instead. Dan Quinn's ended up being awesome for them and exactly what they needed. It just feels like there's such a high upside with a move like this, right? The upside is Kyle Shanahan. It's Sean McVay. Yes, I mean, if you go after someone who is a Mike McCarthy, who maybe it has the higher floor, there's, he is someone who knows, we know for a fact, can galvanize a group. There is the at least high floor there, but the goal is to win a Super Bowl. And if Ben Johnson hits, you could have a potential top 5 coach for a while. Because here's the great thing about Ben Johnson as a head coach is he's been one of the best. I'm just going to say it. Shanahan's great too. He's been top 2 offensive play caller for the past 3 years. I know Shanahan's teams always have a lot of injuries, especially this past year. Let's not forget about him. But if Ben Johnson is behind Shanahan, it's not by much. He might be ahead of Shanahan, and certainly this year, he was the best offensive play caller in football. Not just the trick plays, but how well he schemes guys open is something almost unlike what we've seen before. If he can do that with Chicago, who I will say one thing about the Chicago Bears is we talked about this receiving core heading into the season. Like, oh man, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, like, who's going to be able to stop them? Turns out a lot of people. It wasn't that great in Caleb Williams' rookie year. And I do wonder, does Johnson say, we trust these guys, we're going to roll with them? Or does he maybe try to bring somebody else in? Of course, like I said, the offensive line is a thing. I will say, I think the offensive line isn't as bad as people give it credit. People act like it is. People act that this offensive line is just like a garbage offensive line you can't win with. Could they bolster it on the inside? Sure. But, like, they have offensive linemen that are good players on this line. Part of it is Caleb Williams holds on to the ball for too long. Well, what's a great way to get him to let go of the ball earlier? Have a guy get open earlier so you don't have to hold on to the ball for too long. Again, remains to be seen how well it will work, but the way I always view these things is when you have a young quarterback, what you want to do is build as good of a situation as possible for that young quarterback. Because one of two things is going to happen. Either A, it will work out. Caleb Williams is awesome. Ben Johnson's awesome. Hey, we're a Super Bowl contender all of a sudden. That's cool. B, it doesn't work out, but at least now you kind of know that your quarterback is the issue, right? I mean, how often have we seen the Jets will have their quarterback and be like, I don't think you're good, but also, like, a lot's going wrong around you, so I can't say for sure, right? That happens. At least in this scenario, you won't be in that spot. You won't have to, be like the Giants, who gave Daniel Jones all those years, in large part because, like, the team around him wasn't very good, and they were like, I don't know if you're the problem or not, so let's just keep you around for another year and figure it out. You have that. And then the final thing is, if you have a good situation, the young quarterback stinks, well, now you have a good situation for the next guy. Now you can draft another quarterback and hopefully have a good situation for him. The Denver Broncos, right, trading for Sean Payton, trying to fix Russell Wilson, that doesn't work out, but now it's a good situation for Bo Nix when he comes in. So either way, it just makes sense. I think Ben Johnson's probably going to work. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Apparently, the leading defensive coordinator could be Dennis Allen, which that would be a great 1-2 punch. Dennis Allen's a great defensive coordinator. I know as a head coach, a bit iffy. I think Tom Brady is on record saying he's like coached some of the best defenses he's ever played. We know how those Saints defenses always frustrated Brady in Tampa Bay. If that's the case and you get Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson, who knows how it'll work out? But on paper, that looks great. I guess the only real concern you would have if you're the Bears is like Johnson's gonna have to build a culture, and that's not something we just have no idea how good he'll be at that. But he's coming from a pretty good culture. Had a great guy to learn from with Dan Campbell, who did a great job at kind of instilling a culture there with a winning culture with the Lions. I think this is a great move for the Bears. But that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.